I always liked the Navy. I had an uncle who was on 2 ships that were sunk in World War I and kind of had an affinity for the Navy. And I spent the entire year I was in service in radar school. The last several months was at Treasure Island and San Francisco Bay, and seeing what seemed like the entire Pacific Fleet coming home, including my brother. Toward the end, they said, we're going to make shore patrol out of you, and you're going to go keep peace on Market Street tonight. So we're going to give you a club and an armband, and we don't want anybody to be out of uniform. And if you see anybody not with a hat not down over their eyebrows or anything like that, you take care of it. We're scared to death. That was the worst war we got. There was a lot of celebrating gobby coming home who had been out in the Pacific for 3 or 4 years, and I'd see them staggering down the sidewalk, and I say, we can go into theaters and see if there's any disturbances in there. I did learn a lot there, and I thought I had tremendous respect for the way they teach you. If you goof off or you don't pass the test, you're in the Pacific Fleet tomorrow. So.
I went from high school, I was out a week and went into the program, and the first unit that I was in Whitman College, which is wonderful for a high school kid.
I was a sergeant at the U.S. Army Air Force, and I had flying wings. I was a turret gunner, and I also taught gunnery in the air and on the ground. People don't realize that in World War II, we actually attempted to pay for it by selling things. Remember the stamps which accumulated to books and freedom bonds and so on. And I was an MC on one of those. It was a really fun thing to do. Ted Williams was in my group once. We had a baseball game with him. One of my friends was pitching, and he struck Ted out. So he walked off the pitcher's mound, walked down to the batter's box and said to Ted, would you mind signing this ball that you were struck out by Moon Mullins? That was his name. And he graciously signed it. Well, probably the most outstanding thing is how to get along with people that are very different, and how all to have a common goal and learn the leadership skills that keeps you targeted on that goal.
Well, I've lived near the water just about every day of my life, and I've always been interested being near the water, and so I decided after I got out of high school to enlist in the Navy. And when after the war, I got into the last 2 naval engagements of World War II. I was in the Okinawa campaign, and my first battle star that was given to me. The second was in the East China Sea. I learned a lot about discipline, and I learned a lot about the military and what they've done to have peace throughout the world.
Well, I was thinking about joining the Army Air Corps, and kids would do in those days. I just graduated from high school when the war started, and one day we decided let's join the Navy. So probably the strongest point is that very early on in one's life and career, you're given responsibility, you're held accountable, and you grow, you mature rapidly.
It's just so much fun having the microphone. I have it again. I think if you really could analyze it, that Tom Hayward has more battle experience than all the members of the Rotary Club of Seattle in history combined. He was head of the Navy during the Reagan administration. He was in 3 wars, 2 big-time fighting in Korea and Vietnam. He was a flyer, a hero, and he had over 500 takeoffs and 500 landings off of carriers. And then he was there for the bulk of the Cold War, including right in the middle of it during the 80s. And this club needs to know what a treasure it is we have right here in this club.